The British Columbia Institute of Technology acknowledges that our campuses are located on the unceded traditional territories of the Coast Salish nations of Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh.
Good afternoon. I'm Isabella Khaleesi, and this is your news update to 3:30. NDP leader David Eby says a racist and Islamophobic post made by Conservative candidate Brett Chapman would have led to prosecution if made more recently. Chapman had made a post on Facebook in 2015 calling Palestinian children, quote, little inbred, walking, talking, breathing time bombs, end quote. Eby, who is the former executive director of the province's Civil Liberties Association, says his post is essentially hate speech.
When I look at it as a lawyer, I say this is all of the elements of criminal speech, of hate speech. And he's protected from prosecution only by the fact that it's been more than 6 months since he made those statements.
Conservative leader John Rustad says him and the party's two Muslim candidates have accepted an apology from Chapman for the posts. Chapman is the provincial candidate for Surrey South, which is known to be predominantly South Asian. And as BC approaches its provincial election, party leaders are looking to attract the vote of younger people. Our reporter Ryan Bowles has more on the issues faced in getting that young vote.
As people aged 18 to 35 in BC begin to become a larger portion of the electorate, BC politicians are drawing attention to issues that matter to young people, like affordability and climate change. One issue faced by the leaders is a greater sense of voter apathy among young voters. UFV political science professor Hamish Telford says a big problem is a lack of interest.
If you're interested in something, you will participate in it more often. And maybe they had an unusually high level of interest in politics as a generation, and perhaps what we're witnessing now is a more normal level of interest in politics, and that correlates with lower voting.
Telford says more could be done at a community level to drive engagement and interest in performing a civic duty. Ryan Bowles, BCIT's The Crow.
Ryan Bowles joins me in the studio now. So, Ryan, one thing Professor Telford touched on is the lack of interest among young voters. What sort of things are driving that lack of interest?
So one thing that he sort of touched on was a change in lifestyle amongst young people. He said that when they started doing these studies on voter engagement in the 50s and 60s, back then, young people tended not to continue their education out of high school. They tended to jump more into the workforce. And they would socialize sort of with people in their 30s and 40s who were already sort of begun getting engaged in the political process, and that would then get them engaged. But these days, people can tend to continue their education out of high school in their 20s and into their 30s, interacting with more people their own age who themselves aren't sort of engaged in the political process, and that sort of keeps down that engagement.
Interesting. And did Telford explain why he feels young people should be voting?
Yes, one thing that he said that he tells his students is that they should vote because nothing that they interact with in their daily lives isn't touched by government, whether it's the water you use to get ready in the morning, the sidewalk that you walk on to get to where you need to go, public transit. All of these things are in some way touched by government. And if you want positive changes to be made in these areas, people should express their opinion and go vote.
Absolutely. Thank you, Ryan. Advanced voting stations opened for the first time today, and eager voters can now cast their ballots at any of the 343 registered places. Elections BC says not all stations will be open every day of advanced voting, so be sure to check their hours. A complete list of locations with dates and opening times are available online. Advanced voting will run today until October 16th, excluding the upcoming Thanksgiving Monday on the 14th. And Campbell River RCMP says there's evidence of fentanyl being diluted, dyed, and molded into shapes like dinosaurs and Lego bricks. This comes after officers execute 3 search warrants in the area and seized 1.6 kilograms of fentanyl, along with meth and cocaine. A gun and other weapons were also found on the scene. Police say one person has been arrested and charged with drug trafficking and production, while 5 are still under investigation. And the city of Burnaby is receiving $20 million over the next 20 years from Trans Mountain. Reporter Tammy Mack tells us what the city plans to do with the money.
Trans Mountain Pipeline has reached a $20 million agreement with the city of Burnaby. Councillor Allison Gu says the money will be spent on safety enhancements related to the operation of the pipeline.
We've probably spent about $85 million already, safety enhancements that are related to the facility's operations. There's plenty of more work to be done around safety enhancements, both in infrastructure, that will continue to cost the city and the residents a lot more than what this agreement covers. We are not the decision makers. We are simply the people who are tasked with now protecting the public.
Councillor Gu adds that she is focused on making the best out of the situation by adding safety enhancements to protect Burnaby residents. Tammy Mack, BCIT's The Crow.
And Maggie Ip, the co-founder of the United Chinese Community Enrichment Services Society, also known as Success, has died yesterday at the age of 83. Vancouver's mayor, Ken Sim, says in a statement, the city is mourning the loss of a, quote, true visionary, trailblazer, and community leader. After moving from Shanghai to Vancouver in the 1960s, Ip volunteered at the YWCA. This is where she saw the challenges her and other immigrants faced while adjusting to life in Canada. She helped found Success so others could be better supported in their journey to settle down in the country. Sim says Ip's commitment to public service inspired countless Vancouverites, including himself. And the federal government is awarding a $4.9 million contract to the Gitgat and Gitkatla First Nations to remove oil from a historical shipwreck. Fisheries and Oceans Canada says a U.S. Army ship sank in BC's north coast after hitting a rock in the Grenville Channel in 1946. The ship was transporting Army supplies and heavy fuel oil from Seattle to Alaska. The Coast Guard has previously removed all the oil that was accessible at the time in 2013. However, Fisheries and Oceans says the ship had continued to deteriorate, causing more fuel tanks to collapse. And the Toronto Dominion, or TD Bank, has been fined approximately $3 billion with U.S. authorities due to lax practices. The American government says the Canadian bank has reportedly allowed significant money laundering over multiple years. U.S. Attorney General Merrick Garland says many employees are facing charges.
The Justice Department has also prosecuted 24 individuals for their involvement in money laundering schemes that moved over $670 million in illicit funds through TD Bank accounts. So far, the Justice Department has charged 2 TD Bank employees for their involvement in one of these schemes.
TD Bank is the largest bank in U.S. history to have pleaded guilty to criminal charges for money laundering. And in the States, in the wake of Hurricane Milton aftermath in Florida's Gulf Coast, American President Joe Biden says emergency services have been deployed right away. ABC's Karen Travers has more.
President Biden said while it's too early to know the full account of the damage from Hurricane Milton, life-saving measures made a difference and search and rescue teams have been ready. The president says he's been on the phone with state and local officials, offering everything they need.
FEMA is going to open disaster recovery centers all across the impacted communities right away. So there's one stop the residents can go to learn about the support they might need, and they'll be advertised where those places are.
Karen Travers, ABC News, Washington.
And Nobel Prize nominations continue this week, with South Korea's Han Kang being the winner of this year's prize for literature. Karen Chalmers has more.
Mats Malm, the permanent secretary of the Swedish Academy's Nobel Committee, announced the winner of the 2024 Nobel Prize for Literature.
The Nobel Prize in Literature for 2024 is awarded to South Korean author Han Kang for her intense poetic prose that confronts historical traumas and exposes the fragility of human life.
Han has been a notable author and poet for years and won the award.
Stay tuned for more on BCIT's 1680 The Crow.
Everything is changing to digital. Everything is online. People aren't just waiting for the 6 o'clock news anymore. People want their news right now. They want to be able to go onto their smartphone, onto the internet, and see the news that they want to see.
Vancouver is growing at, a really rapid rate, the Lower Mainland even, and with the tools that we're given here, we're able to cover all of that.
Welcome to BCIT Magazine. I'm Radhika Sikakane.
In the program, they really leave it up to you. I mean, the help is there when you need it, figuring out how to use the programs like Premiere, Audition, and figuring out how to use the cameras. But it's up to you to sort of experiment and figure out what you can do when you go out in the field.
They brought candles and flowers to remember the student who lost her life yesterday.
Teresa May says the international community condemns Moscow.
They really make sure that you know the basics and you are able to put out a quality product.
I'm Brady Tretnero.
And I'm Radhika Sikakane. Thank you for tuning in to BCIT Magazine.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Zach Arabko, and here is your sports updates to 3:45. Vancouver Canucks general manager Patrick Allvin announced Arshdeep Bains has been called up to the club. The 23-year-old was the final forward cut at training camp. Bains' call-up comes after the Canucks lost their opening game of the season to the Calgary Flames. The American Hockey League has mandated neck protection for its players this year. Canucks fans noticed Connor Garland wearing a neck guard in 2023, along with star players like Rasmus Dahlin or Erik Karlsson. Protective neck guards have become a topic of discussion after former NHLer Adam Johnson died when a skate cut his neck during a game in England. The AHL is the top developmental league for the NHL. Like helmets and their visors, the NHL Players Union and League Brass will negotiate possible future implementation. The city of Delta is proceeding with an expansion project at Winskill Park in Tawasin that will add a fourth baseball diamond. Our reporter Keenan Tregaskis has the details on how this impacts athletics at Winskill.
With Tawasin Baseball and Mixed Slow Pitch benefiting from the redesign, Winskill's disc golf group are losing their course. The layout of the diamonds forces the city to remove and replant the forest at the back of the park that is home to the disc golf course. Lucas Neretter, the president of the Tawasin Amateur Baseball Association, gives his support to the disc golf community as they search for a new location.
We will support them because we are an amateur sport association. We want to see sports in general pushed forward in the community, so we will support them in their pursuit for a new space as long as it falls within reason.
The city is working with the disc golf community to find a new location. Project preparations are set to begin soon. Keenan Tregaskis, BCIT's The Crow.
Staying on the diamond, the Detroit Tigers and New York Yankees have a chance to punch their tickets to the American League Championship Series tonight. The Tigers are currently playing the Cleveland Guardians. Score is 1-0 Guardians in the second inning. Then the Yankees play the Kansas City Royals at 5:08. Yankees ace Garrett Cole takes the mound against Royals pitcher Michael Wacha. One of tennis's big three has announced he is retiring. ABC's Tom Rivers has more on Rafa Nadal.
An absolute joy to watch, an absolute joy for me to cover for years out at Wimbledon. Rafa Nadal, plagued by injuries, says come next month he'll retire from tennis after the Davis Cup finals. What a player, what an athlete with 22 Grand Slam titles under his belt. Those victories in an unprecedented era he shared with his rivals in the so-called Big Three, including Roger Federer and Novak Djokovic. Tom Rivers, ABC News at the Foreign Desk.
The WNBA Finals begins tonight between the Minnesota Lynx and the New York Liberty. The Lynx, led by forward Nafisha Collier and guard Courtney Williams, are playing for their first championship since 2017 and fifth in franchise history. Lynx coach Cheryl Reeve is the WNBA's winningest postseason coach and emphasizes how important Collier is to the Lynx.
She is always the same. Her work ethic, her demeanor, her passion for improving. She's improved every season. She's just been incredible. And every game, it's more than scoring, how she helps our team.
The Liberty's Brianna Stewart and Sabrina Ionescu are looking to lead the franchise to its first championship. New York is 0-5 in previous finals appearances. They defeated the Las Vegas Aces, who had won the past two championships to qualify. Tip-off is at 5. In NFL news, a second New York Jets coaching shuffle has happened. Offensive coordinator Nathaniel Hackett has been demoted 2 days after the dismissal of head coach Robert Saleh. Interim coach Jeff Ulbrich named quarterback coach Todd Downing as the new offensive play caller. Ulbrich says getting a fresh take on the offense can rejuvenate it.
It was obviously not necessarily a shock, but we all are familiar with the relationship he has with Nathaniel, and they're very, very good friends that go back a long way. So he understood the decision, and he was supportive of the decision.
And the 2-3 San Francisco 49ers head to Seattle to take on the 3-2 Seahawks in tonight's Thursday night football match. Both teams are looking to curb their losing streaks. The kickoff is at 5:15. Thank you all for listening to 1680's The Crow. Until next time.
Stay tuned for more on BCIT's 1680 The Crow.
MLB expanded their playoff format in 2022, resulting in the top two teams in each league getting a bye to the divisional round. This also made the wildcard round a best-of-3, and a 6th seed now qualifies for the postseason. With these new rules, the National League's top 2 seeds have not won a series. Representing the NL in the World Series are the 2022 Phillies and the 2023 Diamondbacks, both number 6 seeds. In 2024, the 6-seeded Mets are in the NLCS and have a chance to make it 3 straight seasons. I think the introduction of more playoff games has been great for baseball. I also think 6 seeds have less expectations on them. Up until 3 seasons ago, none of the aforementioned teams would play October baseball. Now, they are serious playoff threats. Division-winning teams have been getting eliminated in the first round of the playoffs. The Dodgers and the Braves lost in the divisional series in 2022 and 2023, putting up a combined 3 wins in those 4 series. This year, the top-seeded Phillies lost to the Mets, and the Dodgers are going to Game 5 against the number 5 seed Padres. The Phillies went from a fiery 6 seed making the World Series to a team with World Series aspirations unable to capture the same magic since 2022. I am for expanding the playoffs because it adds more parity to MLB. That said, the top seeds need to keep their foot on the gas to avoid getting blown out by lower seeded teams playing with house money. My name is Zach Arobko, and this is today's Sports Comment.
Everything is changing to digital. Everything is online. People aren't just waiting for the 6 o'clock news anymore. People want their news right now. They want to be able to go onto their smartphone, onto the internet, and see the news that they want to see.
Vancouver is growing at, a really rapid rate, the Lower Mainland even, and with the tools that we're given here, we're able to cover all of that.
Welcome to BCIT Magazine. I'm Radhika Sikki-King.
In the program, they really leave it up to you. I mean, the help is there when you need it, figuring out how to use the programs like Premiere, Audition, and figuring out how to use the cameras. But it's up to you to sort of experiment and figure out what you can do when you go out in the field.
They brought candles and flowers to remember the student who lost her life yesterday.
Theresa May says the international community condemns Moscow.
They really make sure that you know the basics and you are able to put out a quality product.
I'm Brady Tretnero.
And I'm Radhika Sikki-King. Thank you for tuning in to